Hello and welcome to the Balkan Architect podcast. Yeah, it's a little bit different. It's something new that we're trying out, and I hope you enjoy it. And if enough of you like it, I'm going to continue with these podcast episodes. So, for our first guest, I think it's going to be really exciting because we're kind of going into the territory of the rivals, and that's ArchiCAD. I'm happy to introduce Mark Casey. He is an ArchiCAD user and expert, I might say so, and also an educator here on YouTube. I found out about his channel. He had some amazing videos. I actually got inspired for a recent video idea for a retaining wall from his channel. And yeah, so here's Mark. Hello.
Oh, g'day. Hello. Very nice to meet you. And yeah, it's very cool to see someone so big in the space getting inspired by smaller creators like myself. And yeah, it's exciting to jump in and share some different information about ArchiCAD, and hopefully we can see some of the differences, some of the similarities, and yeah, go from there.
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, let's get started with your background. So we know about you that you have an ArchiCAD YouTube channel and that you work in ArchiCAD, obviously. But perhaps give us a little bit of a background of how you got to that place. Are you an architect, civil engineer, or and so on? Feel free to start off at any stages that you like.
Yeah, 100%. So I started my career in 2011. I've been designing buildings up the east coast of Australia. Started in Port Stephens, and I worked my way up the coast. I worked at a couple of different firms with a predominant focus on residential architecture. Um, it's I've had a nice little taste of a bunch of different types of projects, from alterations and additions to completely new builds. So yeah, I've been very fortunate to have a variety of things that I've got to use the tools to actually start designing and drawing with ArchiCAD.
Mhm. Yeah, cool. So you started with that architecture background, and did you just jump into ArchiCAD out of the start, or did you explore perhaps AutoCAD or perhaps some other software as well before that?
So it kind of came down to the practice that I first started with. They were using ArchiCAD, so it just naturally flowed on that I'd use ArchiCAD when I went in through with my formal education, when I was doing my diploma of architectural technology. Now, when I was doing my education there, you had a choice to either use Revit or to use ArchiCAD. So we always had those two options off the start, but just starting off with whatever, with the office that I first started with, being Sorensen Design, we were using ArchiCAD. So from the get go, that's yeah where it all kicked off.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, actually, I just remembered when you were saying that when I was in high school, I was going to like a technical high school, and there was this optional class for ArchiCAD, and for whatever reason, I decided not to take it. And yeah, maybe my journey would have been different if I did, but yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, you started kind of off at school and then developed it during kind of starting to work. And as you kind of worked up the ladder, did it just kind of become natural that ArchiCAD is going to be the software that you're using, or did you have any specific reasons that you decided to stick with it long term and not explore Revit or any other software in particular?
Um, I think it was just going to be the software I was using mostly in field. I did have a bit of a play with Revit when I was in TAFE, but just like any kind of drafting software, when you jump in without any guidance, you're just like, what's this interface? Um, how do I even draw lines or walls or anything in this thing? So, but I did get to have like a little bit of a play, and there are some features within Revit which I was impressed with, and like I wish we had it in ArchiCAD. Just being able to have the multiple views up on the screen, so doing it in seeing your 2D being drawn at the same time as 3D. So ArchiCAD, if you're listening, please check that in because I've always dreamed of making a tutorial where I can draw up the 2D on one side and draw up and just have the 3D just forming on that right hand side. And you could just split that down the middle, put it like on top of each other. It makes for such a cool shot. So My brain's always just working like that. It's just like thinking, all right, how can we make like a really cool like tutorial or like a good visualization? So I think Revit's got that in the bag with that.
Yeah, so it's not possible to kind of have different windows and then work in those. You're just kind of stuck with one view at a time, right?
Yeah, uh, from what I know, at least. Now, look, it could. If anyone in the audience, if you do know a way to do this, I'd be so stoked. But at the moment, it's just focusing on that one view. You do have multiple views you can toggle through, but not you can't actually split the screen at this moment. We'll see in the future if this gets to ArchiCAD or the right ArchiCAD user, and they can let me know. That'd be incredible. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I completely understand your kind of approach to talking about specific subjects. I'm always terrified that I might say, "Yeah, that's impossible in Revit," and then somebody just points out, like, "No, it isn't," and yeah, so it can feel a bit embarrassing. I think I had it like once or twice, but yeah, it happens sometimes. So yeah, with Revit, for example, we didn't have we could split it in half, but we couldn't have it across multiple screens, and then you would have to kind of stretch it out across two screens and then split it in the middle, try to match like where the line is between two monitors, and yeah, it was really weird, but they fixed it a few years back, so happily we can now use two screens.
Good on you. No, that's sick. And just tying back to that thing that you mentioned, it's the things that I've learned from my audience. It's been incredible. Like the more I try and share of the stuff that I've just got to experience in field or the things that I picked up in ArchiCAD, there's always people coming through and saying, "Hey, actually, did you know this?" I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Like it's been such a learning experience for me. The more and more videos that I make, each time I put something out, someone like it's yeah. Every now and then I just get a tip that it just fundamentally changes things for me. So very very much appreciate the audience input on that one.
Yeah, yeah, it's really helpful. Also myself, like when I release a video, I often get helpful feedback. Sometimes not in the, I guess the tone isn't
Yeah,
something that I would
yeah,
appreciate. Like, hey, idiot, you don't do that that way. There's a better way.
yeah, 100%. So sometimes I just have to self edit like as I'm reading. I'm like, all right, we'll
Yeah,
just take out those words. We'll take out that, and that's actually really good feedback. That's really good. We'll just take out the part where they said, "Just take your face off the screen, please." I'm like, all right, all
yeah.
right.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I had a bunch of those too when I but started to place my face on the screen. It was like a few people were like, "Oh, it's really cool to see you now," and others were like, "Okay, I don't want to see you at all."
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's
It's
it's fun.
devastating, but I'll never say
Yeah,
anything. But it's a little bit devastating. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Okay, yeah. So just moving forward, so you developed your skills in ArchiCAD, and yeah, I guess it's kind of like that at this stage. I think with technology in architecture in general, you kind of have to specialize with one tool. You can't really be jumping from software to software all the time. So you kind of developed your skills when it comes to ArchiCAD. When did you decide to start sharing that online and building out your YouTube channel and all of that?
So it's actually relatively recent. I started. I looked just before we jumped on for the chat, and I found out that my first video I made just for online was like 2021. Now that was for short form. Um, I had a particular focus on making short form content for my first couple of years doing content creation. But of recent years, I've been more focusing on the actual ArchiCAD itself. It's just where I feel like I can have the biggest impact and I can consistently post stuff from infield experience as well. So it's probably been like with a focus on ArchiCAD about 2023. And that's where I just really started pushing more and more ArchiCAD content out there. So yeah, probably about then. But I've always been tutoring ArchiCAD just in the background. Like as far as when I was doing my course of architectural technology back in the day, I found that whenever I shared information, like it helped me reinforce my own knowledge, and I had to try and figure out ways to explain things, and just to share the like so many people from the course, they were just starting from completely different careers. They were starting from things like There's hairdressers in there. There's like people who just like completely not technical like backgrounds with computers and things. So anything that I could like jump in and help out with, I've always found it really, really satisfying when someone can just have that aha moment, like when you're helping them out with the software, and seeing that like in person is just like incredible feedback to get. So it started off way back then. It was just tremendously satisfying to help tutor people like in person, one on one. And then as we had people come through the office, I always found myself in the situation where I was like tutoring and getting people onto the tools. And if we had work experience people come in, um, yeah, I loved being able to share how to do things. And again, it's always that kind of aha moment. Oh, whoa, you can draw that, and guess what? You can actually see that in 3D at the same time after you've drawn it in 2 days. So, yeah. But just seeing like someone's like when they first get to see that, like each time, yeah, that's always been satisfying. So this just feels like the natural progression. The next steps on from that, the place where I can have the biggest impact instead of just one to one, as satisfying as that is to see that like in person. I don't know if you're able to beat that. Like doing it online, you can just have an impact internationally. Like with your videos, it reaches a whole global audience. Like how many people now know who have drawn buildings because of your tutorials, like in Revit, and like internationally, there are buildings that weren't there now that are there now because you decided to make a tutorial on how to draw a building. So
Yeah. I would say with the help of
I'll give
I guess
yourself
there are
credit. Come on, man.
other factors as well. Yeah, but I completely understand. I can relate to that. Yeah, I was kind of at school and I was kind of helping people out with software, mainly with AutoCAD and SketchUp, but then later on Revit as well. And yeah, that aha factor, that kind of wow, like you can actually do that. It's so powerful and it's so nice to see people's kind of eyes light up, like, oh, that's so cool, you're like a superhero for software. And it's like, oh yeah, well, I guess I guess I just learned it yesterday. And it's yeah, it's something, it's simple. But yeah, well, that yeah, something that kind of came to my mind. Do you have that feeling like uh, when you're learning and creating content about ArchiCAD, that uh, that type of feeling when you kind of dive deep into a specific topic and then you start understanding, okay, there's so much more outside of it. I don't know if ArchiCAD does kind of produce the same feeling as Revit, where you kind of feel like, oh, at the specific point you feel like, okay, I know a lot, and then in like 2 weeks you realize, oh, I don't know anything. There's like so much more to learn. And yeah, it's kind of a wild feeling, and I was just wondering if you had that kind of during your career.
100%. No, I was just looking up. I think there's a specific psychology. I think it might be the Dunning Kruger effect. As far as when you're going up the competence ladder of something, when you get to a certain level of competence, like you actually get a dip of your own self like confidence with it, because you just realize like all the things beyond that. So it's 100%. As soon as I learn like about a new tool, I'm like, oh, cool, this is really nice. Then like a couple of months later, you're like, oh, I've mastered this. This is fun. Then someone opens up a whole nother door, and you're just like, oh, okay. I had no idea that there's this whole element of this thing. It's yeah, no. So 100%, I completely get that too. And I feel like within the softwares like ArchiCAD and Revit, it can be intimidating if you're first starting, if you're thinking that you have to know every single button, if you have to know the entire interface from the start. And it's not the case. It's you just need to know the things to get your specific requirements done, like the project that you need to get done. Like if someone were to ask me, like, is it difficult to get started in ArchiCAD? Well, it depends. If you're looking to do a complete set of construction drawings and you're looking to get it done within the next hour, it's just like it might be a little bit tricky. It might be hard to approach. But if you're looking to draw your first floor plan, I've got a tutorial over on my YouTube. It's about 15 minutes long. It takes you from your first wall. You draw your first wall within the first minute. So And you get to see that in 2D, you get to see that in 3D. And by the end of the 15 minutes, you've drawn an entire floor plan. You've got walls, you've got doors, you've got windows, you've got your bathroom. So if, depending on what you want to do, like, and the scope and scale of the project, you can learn so much, and it can feel intuitive off the bat. If you're willing to start like with the baby steps at the beginning.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, perfect. That's a really nice way to put it. And yeah, I just realized I'm a terrible host, but yeah, this is the first time
Oh man,
I'm doing
you're
this.
doing great. You're
Can
doing
you?
great. Don't
Yeah,
be so hard on yourself. You're doing awesome.
yeah, but we didn't mention your channel at all by name, so it's
Oh,
ArchiGuide on YouTube, right?
yep, that's the one. Art guide.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
Perfect.
that's it.
We're going to link it up in the cards above and then also down in the description of this video. So check it out. Check out ArchiGuide on YouTube for all of your ArchiCAD needs. I guess we can put it like that. And yeah, let's now jump into ArchiCAD itself. And I think a good way to kind of get started is if you can kind of give me your kind of definition of ArchiCAD. How would you define it to somebody in the, let's say, architecture field? They don't know about it. What would you tell them? Like, what is ArchiCAD?
Okay, so if I was to frame it in the way that I'd try and explain it to, say, like one of my hairdresser friends from, say, when I was first starting out like at TAFE, if I was to explain it to someone who was first starting, I'd say it's a piece of software that you can use to draw plans. Now, it's not only just in 2D, but also in 3D at the same time. And we use it so that we can create the plans that we need to eventually be able to give to a builder or to a council, so that they can look through and make sure that the development is it's all what they need it to be. And for the builder, it's something that they can estimate the costs and actually build from at some point. So this is the software that we use to draw those fundamental plans so that we can actually make buildings happen.
Yeah, perfect. So it's actually it overlaps with Revit quite a bit. So there definitely it's I guess on that kind of basic level they're pretty much the same, and then when you kind of dive a bit deeper, you kind of figure out the differences. So when it comes to learning ArchiCAD, you mentioned your tutorials. You can model your first wall in the first minute. That's sounds really good, and uh, how much time would you say somebody needs to invest into learning ArchiCAD to get to that level? Let's say a very simple house project. They don't need all of the kind of perfect detailed plans, but they just need something that I guess first looks good for the 3D view, and then later on they can develop that the other skills. But kind of getting to something where you can actually present something as, oh wow, I did this. Like, how much time do you think somebody needs to spend learning about the software itself?
Hmm. It's an interesting one because it depends on if they had someone there in person. It's incredible the amount that you could get done even just in a day. Like, honestly, with the amount of tutorials, like the tutorials that you've made for Revit, and just making them approachable for people who are just starting from the very beginning. Um, I feel like you can get a tremendous amount done in even just a day. Like the floor plan video I was talking about just before, that's 15 minutes long from start all the way to your end door. Now from there, like we've got more tutorials where we start building on that scaffolding, that initial knowledge that we've learned, and we start building into things, say, like elevations, which are the exterior views, like your side on views of the building, and also the section, and that's cutting through the building. Now, when we're drawing buildings for architecture, there's typically 5 plans that we draw for every single type of project. It's going to be a site plan. So that's like a top-down view of your site. So imagine if you've got like a drone and you fly it above your house that you're living in right now, and it's that top-down view. So basically that allows us to tell what that offsets are to the boundaries, how, like, the scope and scale of the actual development that we're doing. So it's a big picture idea of the plan and of the project. From there, we're going into like a more nuanced, a smaller view of things. So we're looking into the actual floor plan itself. So we're cutting through that building, and we're looking inside at all the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the kitchen, the fundamental layout. So from there, we have those side-on views that we were just mentioning before. So we can actually see what the aesthetic of the building is looking like. We're looking at materials, we're looking at the roof pitch, all things like this. And then we're stepping into things, say, like the section where we're cutting through the building and we're finding out what it's actually made of. Like, are we doing it from like a slab on ground? Are we doing it as a framed building? And from there, just with those fundamental plans, we've pretty much got most of the things that we need to give it to a council and to give it to, say, like another professional, like a builder, who can then give an assessment and feedback on our designs.
Mhm. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and really, it's a really great way of explaining it on a very simple level. I know it's always kind of difficult when you're working, especially when you're creating content. Some content a bit more kind of specific, a bit more advanced. Some things that are just for the beginners, and you can kind of lose yourself at how much do I need to explain what part to which crowd. And yeah, I think that was a perfect way to explain it when it comes to the kind of the basics and getting started. So yeah, moving forward, something that's really kind of annoying in the Revit community is the Revit versions and the lack of backward compatibility. So when you're working in Revit 2026, for example, which it's always a year in advance for some reason, I don't know why, nobody knows why, but that's how they decided to do it. I guess it sounds cooler when you have that kind of next year version for some reason that's released in April. Uh, and I'm sure somebody is going to correct me in the comments saying, yeah, there's a really good reason for this. And yeah, please tell me. I would love to know it. But yeah, what is that? Yeah, and also for the backward compatibility, if I send somebody a Revit 2026 file, they cannot open it unless they have Revit 2026. If they have Revit 2024, it's worthless to them. But if they send me their Revit 2024, I can open it up in the newer version of Revit 2026. So we have these limitations that can often be annoying, especially when you're working on kind of smaller, quick projects. You just need to get something done, and then you have this whole issue of compatibility. So what's that like with ArchiCAD? Do you get do you get any of those problems there, or is ArchiCAD a bit better?
No, you've described the exact same problem that we also face with versions as well. As far as, and it's the exact same thing. It's like you almost described ArchiCAD, just with say, let's say you've got ArchiCAD 28. You can open up an ArchiCAD 26 file, but you can't open up a ArchiCAD 28 file in an ArchiCAD 26 file. So like if you don't have the latest, it and you're trying to open up the latest files, it can be a bit tricky. But in a lot of cases, the reverse, it's easy to deal with, and it's something that I try and preemptively do with, say, things like my template and like your template. I think you also have back compatibility for a bunch of
Yeah.
different versions as well. Yeah, 100%. So I think at the moment, those are kind of the only approaches to try and like do as many back versions as we can with the templates, just to make it available to as many people as possible. But yeah, no, with ArchiCAD, sorry, like we sadly we don't have any kind of magic solution for like the version as, and look, to a degree I get it. Like, it's as new features are released, like it makes sense that, like, if you try and open up something older where a new feature has fundamentally changed how that project works, and how we can model within the space, it makes sense that like the compatibility, like that there might be issues with that. So as frustrating as it can be, if I try and give it another lens, I go, okay, I kind of understand why. But yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of happy to hear that not only the Revit people are having those issues. So yeah, let's talk about pricing. Like, what's the pricing for ArchiCAD? I know it's probably going to be region specific, but just to get some sort of a ballpark figure of does it have a perpetual license possibility, or is it only subscriptions?
So recently they've moved to more of a subscription model. In
Of
previous
course.
years, you kind of you kind of got to go. I feel like everyone's going towards subscription these days. So there used to be a perpetual license, which you could essentially upgrade or have a subscription to upgrade that perpetual, or you could just have the subscription. Now they've kind of moved away from that perpetual license. Like I've got a physical dongle here at the moment. They're not doing those at the moment, so that's going to be a piece of ancient history soon. But yes, so everything's kind of moved to a subscription model with different tiers depending on, I think, if you have the cloud storage solutions, or I don't know if I think they might be bundling in and out the BIMx stuff as well. Like BIMx being basically you can share your project with clients. It's actually a really cool, intuitive way to, when I'm doing up a concept, you can just send through and they can fly through in the 3D model. And it just makes it like kind of click.
Also, it's like a viewer that you can send to your clients.
Yeah. Actually, I'd love to know that from the Revit perspective. I know from ArchiCAD that we can publish our 3D model. So it does the 3D model, but also the floor plans. So when you click on a certain part on the 3D, it takes you to the floor plan, which is kind of handy. But I have to admit, I haven't done any research with the Revit. So, like, what kind of when you're sharing with clients, do you have any kind of ability to share the 3D, or what's the workflow like for that?
Yeah, so I think there's an yeah, there you should be able to be able to view the 3D for free. There was an app. I'm not sure like what's happening with that app right now. I did a review like 5 years ago, so I'm not sure if it's my knowledge isn't up to date on that. But it was kind of free. You can just send a link to somebody, and then they can open it up and view it. I see a lot of plugins for Revit that are kind of building upon that, where you can do like VR or something like that that you can kind of send to the client. So there's a lot of that happening. But I think Autodesk has just like a basic viewer that you can use to share a 3D with the client. Also, they're building up their cloud solutions like the ACC and some other platforms that are kind of they're changing names all the time, so it's difficult for me to kind of
It's always a lot
keep
of
up
fun
with
trying to
those.
keep.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't use those cloud solutions in most days just because I'm mostly focusing on kind of modeling tutorials and all of that. But it's an important topic, so we're definitely going to be getting into that in the future. But there are few levels of those cloud solutions, but those are also like add-ons to the price. So for example, for Revit, I think it's about $2,500 for just Revit, and then it's 3,000 something for the AC pack, which has just a bunch of additional software. Most of it you don't really use, but it makes sense to get the package. And sorry, did you mention the price for ArchiCAD for the subscription now?
I don't think I did, but I tell you what, I'll have a quick look. I think it'd be interesting to see it from iCAD subscription. Let's jump in. Had a
Yeah,
quick
I'll
look,
check Revit as well.
little bit earlier. Now, just for the audience, this is like in Australian pricing, so this is kangaroo dollars. So yeah, don't freak out. Depending on like which country you're in, like as far as for the conversion, might be worth jumping in and having a look. So at the moment, it looks like for Arcade Studio, which is like for more of the sole traders, like the people who are like out and doing it themselves. Looks like they've got like a monthly version for like $600 per month, or you can do say a 1 year like paid upfront, which is 350. So they're definitely incentivizing like doing the more long term type of thing. And then you've got like a 3 year price, which I think might have some other they paid in annual installments. It's it looks relatively similar on the pricing, the 3 year and the 1 year, but I might be mixing it up. But yeah, around about 600 for monthly, 350 for annual by looks of things.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, note to editor, please convert that into US dollars, just
And into
so
regular
so
dollars, yes.
just so we can have a better idea, perhaps in euros as well, so we in Europe can understand what's going on. But yeah, okay, cool. So, and do you kind of in the ArchiCAD community, are people annoyed with the pricing? Do they find it fair? Like, what's the feeling there? I know in Revit, it's we're constantly being annoyed with the price going up and up and up, and
Yeah, 100%. There was a bit of controversy with the cloud, not with the cloud, with the subscription, like as far as just pushing into that next part. I did a little poll just on my YouTube channel just to see where everyone's at and what their feelings were on the whole upgrade. So it was interesting to get feedback on that front and see kind of where everyone was at. I think no matter what, if something's going to increase in price, like everyone's trying to cover their bases, like as far as just feed the families. So anything that kind of takes away from that, it's going to yeah, people aren't going to be stoked. It's going to be yeah, it's going to hit on that front. So yeah, anytime there's a price increase or a change to structure, I think there's going to be a bit of discontent. So, but it'll be interesting to see as things progress in years how everyone will move on with that change in structure.
yeah, yeah, but it's just something that's kind of a reality at the moment, and yeah, we'll see how it progresses. Yeah, when it comes to ArchiCAD and different markets, I know you yourself are in Australia, and I've seen some other, I think David Tomic. I don't know if you
Yeah,
know
David
him.
Tomic.
He's
Yeah, yeah,
also,
yeah.
yeah,
He's been in the game for ages. Yeah, he makes great
yeah,
tutorials for ArchiCAD. So if you're watching this, David,
yeah,
great job. Keep it up,
yeah,
man. And yeah,
yeah.
cheers
Keep it
for
up.
sharing all the tutorials. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he also I think uses ArchiCAD to a certain extent. I don't know if it's just primarily, but yeah, I've noticed Australia is big for ArchiCAD. Are there any other markets where you've noticed that ArchiCAD kind of has the edge?
Yeah, no, it's really funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, both me and David are from Australia, and we seem to be yeah catching some traction in the ArchiCAD tutorial space. And not to say that there aren't like a lot of other great people. I'd love to mention some other greats in the space. Contrabim, a huge contribution to the ArchiCAD tutorials space. And some other channels that are just building momentum at the moment. We've got people like Barking Dog Bim, they're making incredibly in-depth tutorials on like nuanced areas within ArchiCAD. Specifically, if I was to point people in a direction of like tutorials that I really enjoy of theirs, with Contrabim, they've got a great series on point clouds and how they can be brought into ArchiCAD, as well as yeah, how to interface and bring those into ArchiCAD most optimally. So Contrabim, he's got a two-part series on that. Highly recommend checking that out if you're using things like point clouds. And then for say Barking Dog BIM, they've got incredible tutorials on making custom objects within ArchiCAD, which is like a really deep dive into the ArchiCAD ecosystem. So having people covering those areas with so much nuance, it's incredible the resources that the entire community is gaining just because we've got dedicated people who are just yeah making those tutorials and sharing them online. So and those are just two. I could go on with like other, and I'm sorry, other guys in the ArchiCAD space. I'd love to just list it out, but like I'd take up the rest of the podcast at the moment. But I really appreciate because I'm constantly learning myself from these other people in the space, and I feel like it just elevates all of us as we just build and build with each other and sharing more and more with the community. And I feel like you probably have that same thing in the Revit space. I think there's Revit Kid. He puts out great stuff. So yeah,
Revit
it's
Pure as well.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's those communities that gonna make the software viable at the end. Like if it was just the software itself, I think it wouldn't work as well as it does with the communities that are built. And kind of going a bit deeper into that, for Revit, for example, we have a lot of developers that are creating plugins for Revit that really build on software for, especially for different specific things. For example, environment for Revit that's it's a plugin that allows you to create topography in a very unique and easy way, and there are many others. And yeah, what's that like? And also for the for people creating families, websites like BIM object, where you can download families or 3D objects for Revit. Like what's that kind of side of things when it comes to ArchiCAD?
So plugins, I have to admit, it's one of those areas where I've still got so much to learn. It's that whole Dunning Kruger thing. Like I feel like it's a door I haven't fully opened just yet. But for the plugins that I have used a little bit, they've been incredibly useful. Say the one for Twin Motion being the software I use to do a lot of my external renders. But the plugin, just to give a brief overview, once it's installed, when you jump into your 3D model inside of ArchiCAD, you can just hit a little refresh button and it updates the model in your twin motion. So it just makes it just so much smoother. Instead of having to re-import, do all of that kind of stuff, you can just press a button and all of a sudden you've any changes that you've made in the ArchiCAD model, it's instantly done to the twin motion as well. So just as an example of a plugin, that's something that I use. But plugins are something that I feel like, honestly, I underutilize. So I'd love to hear from the audience if they have any plugins that they do use for ArchiCAD. If they could mention it below, because I know that there are a lot of plugins out there. It's just something that I haven't taken that deep dive into just yet, but would love to learn because if there's some stuff that can fundamentally change my workflow, throw it at me. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, please share in the comments. Yeah, plugins are a huge thing. I think that community that yeah, I mean, the software itself is more just a platform. It does give you some cool tools, but if you're doing something specific, having a plugin for that is a tremendous thing. I see a lot of companies that do actual stuff in the real world, not just software. They are developing their own plugins to do stuff with their products, perhaps their like facades or their windows or something like that. So yeah, definitely a big part of the community. And if you do a specific job, you might just find a plugin that makes it 10 times easier, and so it's definitely worth exploring. Okay, so yeah, you mentioned the tutorials that you've seen on point clouds. So that's a question that I've gotten when I've shared that we're doing this interview on LinkedIn. I've got a lot of questions, and a lot of those were for point clouds. I see point clouds as this new big thing in the industry, just being able to scan an entire site, building, whatever. It's really powerful, it's really precise, and now it's kind of on the software side. How can we actually implement that? So what's that like for ArchiCAD?
Yeah, 100%. Just to add on to what you just said there before, it's incredible. If you've never done a point cloud yourself, it's amazing. Like and you can do it on your phone these days. You can just literally use apps, say like Polycam. Polycam's one of the ones that I typically use. You can just using your phone, if it happens to have LiDAR, that's the only catch. Um, or if you have one of the really big fancy machines that does the lasers 3D scanning, which I went to a lunch the other day with the BDAA, and we had a group in that were showcasing some of the technology around point clouds. And I think the device that they had was like 150K, like just for the device that they used to scan buildings. Now, Granted, like, it was incredible. Basically, it's this thing that they put on like a vest, and it's got like a camera up top. They just walk through buildings, and it just captures points from them like the whole way through. So very, very impressive technology. But to tie back to what you were saying, like, this is what I feel like is the future of it's actually the right now of what's happening with measure ups, especially with industrial. I've seen some really cool areas where they're getting all the ducting, like all the little details. If you had to try and do that yourself, like with a tape measure and a laser measure, it'd be weeks or months, and you wouldn't get it half as accurate if you're trying to do it yourself. So point clouds, I think, are becoming more and more critical for both platforms, for ArchiCAD, for Revit, as we're doing alterations and additions to existing structures, especially. So it is something that we can do within ArchiCAD. One thing I would say is that you probably need to have a fair bit of RAM. RAM just being like the computer's memory and ability to it's a resource that your computer uses. So just tying back to Contrabim, I think he had like 64 gigabytes of RAM, like, in his computer. So that heavily flexes on my computer. I won't say what mine has, but it's not 64 gigabytes yet, so I might have to upgrade that. But yeah, so if you've got a computer, say with your typical 16 gigabytes of RAM, it might struggle a little bit because of the sheer volume of data that has been captured when you're doing something like a point cloud, because it is capturing not just hundreds, not just thousands, hundreds of thousands of points. I've heard like millions, if not like a billion points of data that is trying to navigate, like, as you're panning around it in 3D. So it's understandable why it needs so much memory. From the ArchiCAD point of view, like, I would love to see some kind of way if they could do some optimization, just as far as when we're bringing in ArchiCAD, if you're listening, please. Just so that people with systems that aren't quite as beefy can still utilize the software, utilize the technology that we're bringing on board now with the point clouds. Yeah. So as far as point clouds go, it is the future. It's the right now. ArchiCAD can do it, especially if you have a beefy computer to be able to take that on. If you don't, like, it might just be a little bit slower to load different areas depending on the size and scale of the scan. But I hope that with future iterations, we'll continue to have that refined and more optimized. Say like Unreal Engine, Unreal Engine now has systems where they only render the points that are actually within the view, so it takes up much less resources. So that being said, I'm not a developer, so I might be talking out my back end, like, as far as how difficult this optimization is. But it would be incredible, and I think it'd be a huge win for ArchiCAD users to be able to utilize the point clouds, even with, say, less intense compute power.
Yeah, yeah. It's very similar in Revit. You can bring them in. The problem is they usually crash Revit, or if they're big enough, or if they're smaller, they just slow you down quite a bit. So I've
That makes me feel
worked
so
with.
much better that you say that. I thought it was just me, so yeah, that's good to hear.
No, no, no. It's all over the industry. Yeah, and I've actually worked with a few companies that have plugins, and mostly they're focusing on just how to make it user friendly, or uh, not extremely powerful computer only friendly. So yeah, it's a big thing. And yeah, one thing I've seen at the conference last year at Digitech 24, they had one of those Boston Dynamic dog robots, and I think it had a LiDAR on top. And I'm just thinking, is that the future of architects visiting the site, just sending their kind of dog robot to scan the site and report back? I don't know. It sounds exciting.
Yeah, no, that's great. I've never seen one of those in real life, so I'm a little bit jealous. That's very cool. One of those little Boston Dynamics. That's man, that's the future right there. That's the actual robots in it. I never thought I'd see that. Like, when I was a kid, you'd see like movies and that kind of stuff, but like, we've got actual, like, two-legged, four-legged robots running around right now. So it's crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah, the future is now. Yeah. So yeah, when it comes to disciplines in ArchiCAD, in Revit, we have obviously AutoCAD, ArchiCAD. I'm getting lost with the names.
There's lots of
So
CADs. There's too many CADs
architects,
out there.
yeah, yeah. So architects are using Revit, obviously, but we have structural engineers, civil engineers. We have MEP engineers, which I kind of feel like everybody's always looking for a good MEP engineer that works with Revit. What's that like for ArchiCAD?
They have brought in more and more refinements when it comes to like map type elements, which is great to see. Like especially if you're taking on more complex projects, especially when you're coordinating stuff with engineers. Map being like all the ducting and all the different services that go through a building. So like they're doing it, and it's great to see. I think in the latest iteration that hasn't been released yet, but ArchiCAD 29, from what I've seen, it's a bit more drag and drop, and like you can just pull and click your different services throughout the areas. Um, so it is possible to do like within ArchiCAD, but just within say the rough area that I'm in at the moment, I think the predominance with engineers is mostly Revit at the moment. Or if I'm to be like completely honest, like it's like AutoCAD. Like there's still like two D drawing is like guys like so you're overlaying like 2D lines, and then you're essentially having to extrude it into the space when you're overlaying and making sure stuff's actually working. But yeah, no, look, I'd just be happy if ArchiCAD, Revit, as long as people actually start using the tools, that'd be sick. It'd be great to see. So and it's good to see that the tools are becoming more and more advanced. Like in ArchiCAD with the latest release with ArchiCAD 29, yeah, it looks like it's becoming more and more intuitive, which is good because we're getting more and more strict with drawing in Australia for different classes of buildings. Say like a class two. Class two is just a fancy word for a building that's on top of another building. Just having to make sure that it's drawn to a level of detail that it's not going to have problems down the track, like that you've got fire rating, that you've got your services going through, and when those services come through, that like any penetrations meet the minimum fire rating requirements. So yeah, map is the most intuitive way to do that. But yeah, I think the industry is a little bit slower on the adoption front, which is a bit of a pity. But as the tools become easier and easier, then yeah, I think it's going to be more widely adopted.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a story I hear very often where somebody's preparing a very complex Revit project. They're supposed to kind of send it to the next stage, and then they get an email like, "Can you get us a CAD file of this? Like, we don't know what to do with this." And yeah, it can kind of be very very annoying sometimes. Yeah, when it comes to compatibility, is ArchiCAD working with the IFC file format? Can you export to IFC?
Yeah, you can export and you can import IFC. Probably one of the more notable, probably more relatable instances of where you can bring in an IFC would just be something where you can Magic Plan. Magic Plan's an app you can get for your phone where you can scan like an environment, and then you can actually publish it as an IFC and then shoot that through to say like ArchiCAD, which is very cool to see. So you can literally with no experience modeling, you can take your phone, you can scan the environment. I'm not sure if you have to have LiDAR or not. It might be you might be able to do it just with like your regular phone. But yeah, I don't know if it'd be as accurate. But you can scan the area, export the IFC, and then import that into ArchiCAD, which is much more intuitive. Which is nice to be able to bring in those models.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Cool. So yeah, let's now move forward, and if you can give us a little bit of a demo, or perhaps not a demo, but just to show us what ArchiCAD is like. One of the main questions that I've gotten is the how do you kind of navigate the project, accessing views, and all of that. Just what's navigation like in ArchiCAD?
Yeah, 100%. All right, I'll jump in. I'll share my screen.
Hmm.
Hopefully, I
Yeah.
don't flash anything too dangerous. as far as that might get me into trouble. All right, cool. So I'll jump in. So this view that I've got just here at the moment, and I'll just check. Can you see my screen by any chance?
Yes, yes, I can see it.
Excellent. Is there anything that will get me into trouble that you can see?
No, no, not right now.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Nice, nice.
And again, no, to editor, blur everything that doesn't look right.
Oh, thank you, thank you, editor. Please and thank you, please and thank you. All right, cool. So inside of ArchiCAD, this is our layout. So probably what might be of more interest. Let me just think. I'll go to a site plan. So I've got a site plan
So
just
all
here.
of your views are laid out on the on the right.
Yep, on this right-hand side. To anyone who's first getting started within ArchiCAD, there's essentially four key parts within ArchiCAD that everyone will eventually go through. So when you're starting off your project, now one of the biggest things, I'll just go to tooltips. That's another big one. So when you hover your mouse over the top, it should. Hold on, we'll go like that. No, hold on, we'll go tooltips. There we go. All right, starting off with the project map. I got that one. So in the project map, this is where we set the actual heights of our project, as well as the actual stories themselves. So if we right click on here, we go into story settings. We've got the heights of the actual say the finished floor level. Or the RL, like the height of the actual the mesh, like of the project that we're working on, and the individual heights of like each of the different stories, say like from ground floor to first floor, and so on. So this is the foundational part of our project. This is where we've got our like the core like floor plan. It's where we've got our elevations, and from there we typically take these into the view map. So the view map is where we can create different iterations of the same plan. So let's say we've got I'll jump in. Now this one's currently in progress at the moment. This is a little sneak peek of some new things that I'm adding to the fundamentals template, the ArchiCAD template that
cool.
I've got for purchase with all the little different bells and whistles. So I'll jump back in. So you've got your different plan types. So let's say you've got your site plan. You're typically going to also need, depending on the project, maybe a landscape plan. So it's that same view. It's that same top-down view, which is showing different information. So this is where we're able to decide which information is showing and isn't showing. So let's say we right-click onto the site plan. We go to the view settings. It'll give us this little information box just here. And this is where we can choose what we want it to show, like whether we want it to show those landscape or the stormwater, the subdivision, all of that kind of information. So that's where we can create multiple different plans from that one original point of view. So from there, we want to be able to take these drawings that we're working on here, and we actually want to put them onto a page. So this is where we move into, say, the layout book. So if I go onto my page just here, this is where we're placing those individual views. So when we're actually exporting it and we're printing those so we can give them to, say, council or builder or to a client, this is where we're putting those individual views. So we can crop them, we can and we can add different drawings on there depending on the information that we're keen to show. And the information that we're required, say for a council or for a certifier. So this is where we put all of our actual views themselves onto the layout book. And then from there, when we want to actually publish the information, it's not always just a PDF, although PDF is the most common format that we're typically using for giving it to people, say like councils or to clients or to anyone that just wants to get a look at the actual project. When we're giving it to people like consultants, whether it be engineers, most predominantly, we're going to be publishing these as DWGs. And this inside of here, this is where we can choose whether we publish them as a PDF or as a DWG. So if I jump back out into here, we go to the publish properties, and we can choose whether it's a single file like a PDF or if we publish all of those to a specific folder on your computer. and then we choose the actual type of drawing that those are going to be published as. We've got a bunch of different options, but the most predominant ones that you're going to come across are going to be either, say, like the DWG, or it's going to be, say, like the PDF. So as far as workflow goes with inside of ArchiCAD, if someone said, all right, you have to explain it inside of 5 minutes, I'd say that is the most fundamental thing to learn when you're coming on board. Like as far as if you're moving into drawing a full set of drawings. Now, if you're just starting out, I'd highly encourage literally just draw your first wall. Like it's one of the most
Yeah.
satisfying things that you'll do when you're learning how to use any piece of architectural software. To see something where you've clicked a button, now there's a tangible thing that you can fly around inside of like the 2D and the 3D view. Uh, it's tremendously satisfying. So start off with really, really small. But as you start to build and you start to build out a set of floor plans and something that you want to then be able to share, this is going to be the next key area that you're going to want to pick up. It's going to be the navigator or the organizer, has kind of like two names, and this is where we're going to be actually organizing the drawings so that we can clearly communicate the plan set or the project to other people. Once you learn how to first set up your height and then to change the different things that we're showing on the plans, then to put it onto a page and then to publish it in the format that we need. Those are pretty much the most critical elements to ArchiCAD. If you can master those, you can get so much done in the world as far as making plans and then sharing them. Because at the end, this is the fundamental thing that we are trying to do. We're trying to communicate an idea in a visual format, that being floor plans, and then export that to people who can actually make that happen. And we can share ideas and change and form it into what's actually going to be there on site one day.
Yeah, okay, that's really cool. It's really interesting how it's different but the same compared to Revit. We have the project browser and it kind of has all of those kind of on top of each other. Now it's moving into kind of some tabs and they're changing it a little bit. But yeah, it's very similar but also quite different. I feel like when I was younger, I was watching Simpsons forever, and then I watched an episode of Family Guy, and it kind of felt weird because it's the same, but it's also very different. I feel like Revit and ArchiCAD are kind of like that.
So if you'd be of interest, I'd love to get like a demonstration from the expert. Like as far as like if you happen to have a project open by any chance, I'd love to see how it works with Revit, because I have to admit I've been a little bit lax on that front. I'd love to see it in like a demonstration if that's cool, but.
Yeah, definitely. Let me just open up Revit here for a second. It does take a while for it to
I
open.
was about to say I
Uh,
hate to put you on the spot there like this. I just
yeah,
thought like
no worries.
if you're keen to share it, it'd be very cool. Because it, it 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 can be very daunting, like when you're first going into ArchiCAD and getting used to how like to pull those different elements, like pull your view onto your page, then actually pull your page and getting it published. But once you've done it like 10 times, or if you've had someone walk you through it, then it just becomes second nature, and it just becomes so much easier. I'm guessing it might be a similar thing with Revit, that it's like intimidating when you first start, but with like proper tutelage or just consistency and dedication, discipline, all that kind of stuff, that eventually it becomes second nature.
Yeah, it definitely does. So yeah, let me share my screen right now. Yeah, I think it's cool to do that. Kind of quick demo. Uh, just to compare notes, I guess, on how things are done. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this is our project 2 from our beginner course, and uh, this is just a sheet opened up. So this is the project browser. It's you can move it around. It's usually kind of by default. It's there on the left, and yeah, this is basically your entire project. Now they've divided it into these tabs. Now I see it's perhaps they got the idea from ArchiCAD. This was added recently, where you can kind of switch between the home page, which is what was there before, but then you also can go to just views and then just this is schedules and legends, or no, just legends, then schedules, then the sheets, and here we have all of the families. And yeah, one quick question: in Revit, all of the parametric elements that we add, we call them families. What are they called in ArchiCAD?
If I might fumble this, but as far as things say, like the individual objects that we place into like a structure, whether it be the fridges, the sinks, all of this kind of thing, we typically call those objects.
Mm-hmm.
We might have, say, walls, walls, windows, and doors. They're kind of their own different thing. All of those fall within the category of things that are inside of the toolbox, to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
Oh, okay.
audience, if there's a proper name for it or like an equivalent to families, I'd love to know it because all of that I know the elements of ArchiCAD as are just things that I use from within, say, the toolbox.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm also always terrified that I have been using a wrong term for something for years and just
It's
nobody
been
corrected me.
decades.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh, yeah, so anyways, just to finish the demo, so basically we have this kind of divided into tabs, and this is where you go through your first your levels. Now, for all of your levels, so this is level 1, this is level 2, for all of the levels, in this case, floor plans, we also have the side plan, and you can kind of structure this however you like. It's a bit more advanced topic to build out a layout of all of these views. You can have them according to different disciplines, so you can have just architectural floor plans, then just structural floor plans, and so on, or you can have just one. And for all of those, you can have multiple views. So here we can see we have level 2, then we have this level 2 annotation that just has the annotation. Then we have this level 2 diagram, so it's just pulling everything from a single level, and then you can have as many of these views as you like. Also there we have the 3D view, which is kind of the exciting one, and it's opening up really slowly, but yeah, so
That looks awesome.
that's the 3D view. And then we have the sections, elevations, the legends, the schedules, and all of that, and then you start placing that on the sheets. So here we have this kind of a technical sheet that has a floor plan, a section, all of that, and basically you can just drag and drop. So for example, this section I can just drop it here, and yeah, now it's on that page with a sheet. Now I'm just going to delete this. Of course, you can set up the scales differently and all of that. Now below that we have the families itself, or the objects as or elements from the toolbox from ArchiCAD, and it's all according to different categories, and it's also kind of neatly packed up, so you can see like what do you have there from those, and then we have the groups and links if by any chance you have those. But yeah, that's basically how you kind of navigate through the entire project. Now, for creating levels, you've shown me how you can kind of define the ceiling heights, I guess, for the levels. Uh, Here we mostly do levels in sections or elevations. You just place them like this, and then you can adjust their height and their height according to the other levels as well. And also you can have a bunch of these that don't really correspond to actual views. You can just have levels as markers in vertical space if you want to, or just kind of planes that you use for some sort of orientation. But yeah, that's basically how it works in Revit.
No, it feels nice and
Uh,
intuitive, like to be able to do that in section view.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really good to kind of when you first figure it out. Of course, there are some little tips and tricks that they can get into, but it would take forever. But yeah, it's really nice to have the ability to control it there in the section. Is that not possible in ArchiCAD? You have to go to that menu to adjust the height.
Yeah, that's the main way. You can manually manipulate like the wall height or the slab height. Like as far as let's say you've got like a split level building. Let's say you cut that slab in half. you can just then raise that slab up, say 500 mil, and you can do that in 2D and 3D. You can do it in a section view, so you are able to manipulate the individual elements, but to actually have the set point at which those floor heights are done, that's the only way I know how to do it.
Cool, cool. Okay, and for parametric models or the objects for your toolbox, how do you create those? Do you have like a special environment for creating those? Like, how does that work? And if you can just show us what that looks like in ArchiCAD, and I can show you in Revit later on just to kind of compare.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Let's jump in. Let's go share. And then now, inside of ArchiCAD, I have to admit this is one area that I'm lagging a little bit. When it comes to objects that we say place inside of ArchiCAD, because we've already got like a somewhat substantial library that we can draw from, like
Mm-hmm,
as far as cars, all the things that you're seeing here on this current view at the moment,
mm-hmm.
like this sofa set. I'll jump into 3D so it just looks a little bit more visually interesting as well. So I'll jump in here. We'll go show marquee in 3D. And all right, there we go.
Okay,
Nice.
that's cool. Like a
Yeah.
little section box. Okay,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Now this one's in the works, so there's definitely some cleaning up I need to
Mm-hmm.
do. So I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping really quickly. I'll go that one, and then I'll go subtraction with upward extrusion. There we go. I had some grass on the patio. I've got some more there, but I'll ignore that. I'll let my OCD pass there for the time being. So when it comes to the like objects inside of ArchiCAD, say like your sinks, like your chairs. They've got an inbuilt library. Now this might be
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of a tangent, but let's say I go something like a sink. When I type that in there, we've got all the different types of sinks that we can choose from that are built into ArchiCAD. Now, when we scroll down this view, there are some. I'm pretty sure the community made or like other ones with inside of ArchiCAD that you can then download that people have made up. So you download it and embed it within the file. And you can go from there. Now, when it comes to actually building your own custom stuff, I haven't delved too deeply into it because it's kind of almost in a way a little bit like coding, just as far as
Oh, okay.
setting it so that the parameters of the individual objects, let's say you go into, say, this lounge here, for example. It's nice and visually aesthetic on these settings just here. Just as
Mm-hmm.
far as going through, like let's say, we want to change the seat height or the width, but so that you can actually make it so that this object has these toggles and these options. There's a back end for this that does start to get more complicated. So if we say go
Mm-hmm.
into libraries and objects, and then we want to go open an object. This is where it's currently opened up, say, this object, the one that I've just had selected there at the moment. Then if we go into parameters, and we've got
Oh,
this.
wow. Okay, that's
Yeah.
scary. That's really
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. So that's and look, I mightn't be doing justice to how these things are built, and honestly, it might just be my own lack of knowledge within this within the area of creating like the objects themselves. There might be a more user friendly interface to actually create these kind of things, but from my short little delving into this. Yeah, essentially it's going in and it's essentially like coding. You're going through and you're typing in like what the parameters of different things are. So so that we don't fall into a risk of your audience falling asleep, I'll go back to the nice 3D view because it's
Okay.
it's very, very intense. And look, it is something that you could probably take a deep dive into. Like, and I'm so grateful for channels like Barking Dog BIM, who are covering how to create the custom things with inside of ArchiCAD. So if it is an area where you're keen to take a deep dive, if the current objects aren't enough to get done what you want done, or if like you can bring stuff in from companies that have their own objects that you can bring in, say like Caroma, the bathroom manufacturer. You can bring in, say, their toilet suite, things like this. So I find for me, it's kind of a more rare case of actually building custom objects for the type of projects that I'm working on myself. But if you are keen to take a deep dive, there might be a more intuitive way, and maybe I've just showcased the craziest way to make custom objects. But yeah, so that's my knowledge for ArchiCAD, just as far as creating those custom objects. But I'd love to see
Okay.
what that looks like in Revit. Just from hearing your reaction, I think it's going to be
Yeah.
much less intense than
Yeah, yeah,
trying to learn how to code.
yeah, a little bit more intuitive. I just remembered when I was learning how to find custom hatches for AutoCAD and Revit online, and then I learned that people used to do it just by code. They would code a hatch like some sort of ancient wizard, and yeah, that sounds crazy to me, but yeah, people used to do it. So yeah, let me show you just what that looks like in Revit. Uh, let me share my screen. Okay, so we're back kind of where we left off. So here we have just a bunch of objects that are there in this project. And if I open up a floor plan, for example, yeah, so we have here a sink or a chair or desk or things like that. But basically, you build them out here when you go to File, New, and then we have a family. So they're called families, and you need to start off with a template. So I'm just going to start off with a generic one. What's the most generic? Okay, this one. And then, okay, I think I used the imperial one. That's okay. So anyways, you use these reference planes to kind of host geometry. So what you can do, and this is really cool, you can create some reference planes like this, for example, and then I want to create some sort of geometry like an extrusion. Then what I would do is I would place it like a rectangle between those reference planes, just like so. And then I get this little lock icon, and then when I lock that in place and I finish this, and now this is just a piece of geometry, I can see it in 3D. Now when I go back to my reference level, if I move one of these, see, it kind of moves the object with it
That's cool.
like that, yeah. And then what you can do, you can make it parametric by just adding dimensions. So for example, I can add a dimension here. I can add like one of these equal dimensions, so it just kind of keeps it
Oh wow,
equal for
that seems so much more intuitive. That seems very intuitive way
yeah.
of making customs. Yeah, you're actually drawing lines. You draw. Yeah, that seems.
Yeah, you're not doing magic.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
but yeah, this is basically how you do it, and then for all of these parameters that you create, or these dimensions that you create, you can turn them into parameters. So you can call this one the new parameter. I hopefully spelled that right, and then you can try it out here and flex it. So let me just move this off to the side. Okay, so this I want to be 6 feet. Hit apply. Now it's bigger, and yeah, so on. And of course, you can build on top of that and build all sorts of relationships between geometry, and yeah, that's really cool. And of course, you can add all sorts of parameters that are just kind of regular parameters. So if I go here to create a new parameter, I can choose a discipline type, so it can be text, angle, area, whatever. So we have a bunch of different ones that we can add, and then once the parameter is part of that family or object, we can then use it later on in a schedule or something like that.
I love that. Yeah, no, that seems like a much more intuitive, like 3D modeling, yeah, kind of way of putting stuff together. Now, granted, again, there might be a way, but that I haven't looked at. But yeah, if it is out there, please in the comments, if you can let me know below. I might be in desperate need of an education on this matter.
Yeah, but I think it speaks about the libraries that you get with ArchiCAD if you don't really have need to model something like that, you're obviously getting a lot of good content. With Revit, for example, lately I have been seeing good content online, free and paid. But when I was just getting started, just finding quality elements to put in your projects was next to impossible. So I kind of had to learn it. If I wanted something that looks okay, yeah, you had to make it. Like you didn't really have different choices. But yeah, now there are templates and families to download and all of that, which is really really cool.
No, it seems like a really cool process to be able to go through. And I think I saw on your site you've got like a ton of ones that you've made up, from cars to like all sorts of different things that you've got in your templates. So yeah, as much as it might be a pain to have to set up, I think since you've developed a bit of a library now, it's an awesome resource that everyone can kind of tap into.
Yeah, it's really cool. And just one thing to clarify, I did make some of those, or kind of within the company, and some of those were just reselling for other creators. So
Ah,
I
cool,
don't want to
nice.
take credit for
Ah,
for any of
my,
those,
that
especially
was
the
my bad.
cars.
That was
And
my bad. Yeah.
no worries.
They look very
So
cool. Whoever made them, they look very, very cool. So yeah.
yeah, they're really great, and yeah, we're working on getting more of those that actually look impressive. Usually in Revit, it's I don't know what it's like with ArchiCAD, but it's like it's important to work, and looking nice is kind of secondary, uh, which makes sense. You want the parameters, you want to make sure you include all of the information. That's the whole point behind the BIM. But for us architects, we kind of like it to look nice as well, so it's useful. Yeah. Mm. Okay, so yeah, one more thing that I would like to ask you about complex modeling. So the house that you've shown and the office building that I featured here, it's very kind of I don't want to call it basic, but it is something that you would see every day. But is it possible with ArchiCAD to do some crazy Frank Gehry Zaha Hadid type buildings? Uh, or I'm sure it's possible, but like how difficult it is, or is it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It depends on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go. Like as far as modeling inside of ArchiCAD, there are tools that are a little bit more intuitive to use. Introduced in probably I think 7 versions ago in ArchiCAD was the morph tool. So the morph tool, it's kind of more like a free form kind of tool. I might even jump in and I'll share my screen. I'll see if I can just do like a really random little thing. I'll jump in. I'll go share, and I'll jump into here. All right. So I'll jump into the floor plan. Now, the cool thing about the morph tool, just up here, and this one here, it's kind of more free form. So if we say go to say something, we'll do this geometry method. Now it can be a little bit more intensive on the computer. So I think I'm putting my poor little computer under a hefty load at the moment. I've got OBS, I've got ArchiCAD, I've got like all these different things. It's like, it's trying to survive. So, all
We're
right,
rooting for it.
cool. So I can draw. So I can draw this up in 2D. I can do this in my floor plan view or in elevation, any kind of view in a section. And then within the pet palette, I've got the ability to kind of push, pull, and play with the parameters of that there. Now that's in 2D. Now if I right click, go show selection in 3D. Now I've got this just here. So if I take this and if I click on that face just there, then my pet palette will pop up. And then from there, I can just start extruding, somewhat similar to some other software you might have come across.
Yeah.
Now that's cut through a cut plane. So this is where you can start getting more creative with your shapes, and then we can adjust the type of material that we've got around this, as well as the pens, all that kind of thing. So creating different points across this, and then creating more complicated and intricate
Mhm.
shapes. So we do have that ability, say, with something like the morph
Mhm.
tool. We also do have kind of more old school methods like custom profiles,
Mhm.
which basically like you draw like a profile, and then you can extrude it
Yeah.
in the 2D. So if we're doing things like fretwork for a building, say something an older cottage, something like that. That's where you can start getting more creative with some of the different modeling.
Mhm.
But I'll exit out of that one for the time being. So with inside of ArchiCAD, you do have that, like, as far as depending on how comfortable you are using those different tools, say like the morph tool, to be able to create those kind of custom shapes. From there, like if you really want to get like deeper and make some, like, yeah, like you were mentioning, some of the most famous types of works, there are plugins that can take it to different software, say like Rhino or Grasshopper, things like this. That again, there are probably other channels that take a deep dive on these, which one day I'd love to check out. But for the scope and scale of the type of projects, like the typical residential builds that I'm working on, it's not a tool that I need to flex, but it's very impressive when you do watch it, when they like switch on all the toggles and you see like a little like a blade fan just appear, and you're just like, man, that's awesome. So yes, there is that ability if you take the deep dive, or like more basic modeling, like I showed just before, if you do want to create something with a little bit more shape to it. But I'd love to see, yeah, what that looks like in Revit as well. If you're
Yeah,
if
definitely.
you can jump in.
Yeah, let me just share my screen again. And yeah, one more question. Like, do you can you apply walls to those shapes once you've created them?
That's a good question. I don't, not from what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we can apply walls to, like, you can like draw a wall, then like set it at the level
Oh,
of
okay,
wherever
yeah.
that object is, or like you can put walls around it. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can have those two elements kind of interact in that
Mm-hmm.
way.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't like recognize the edge or something. Like I'm just trying to connect it with Revit. Let me just show you here. I'm going to close out of this family that they've created. So what we have in Revit is this massing and site tab, and then these are the massing tools. But basically, this is a whole new environment in Revit. So I think it might make sense to open up a new project for this. So I'm going to go with the metric project. Okay. Uh, and let me get rid of these. Okay, so basically you turn on this show mass. You go to in place mass, and you're now creating a new mass. That's what Revit calls this unique geometry. It's a mass. And then you get these draw tools, which are kind of more flexible, more natural. And then, for example, you can also use the reference planes and reference lines, which I've shown you for the families, the ones that where we've
Mm.
attached the geometry. You can use that to again host the geometry. So, for example, if I go into a floor plan and then place a few of these planes like that, and then I'm just going to call this one number 1 and this one number 2. Now I can go to a 3D view and I can pick out like a spline tool, and then I can actually try to host it on that. So I can select the work plane here, go with reference plane number 1, and let me just see that. Okay, so here it is, and now I can basically draw like a very kind of unique shape on that particular plane, and then I can do that again just on the other one. So number 2, it's here. So I can just do that. And now I can
Uh,
connect those uh, like so, go to create form, and it's going to create a very kind of
oh
natural
wow.
form, between those. And yeah, now what I really like when it comes to Revit is that we can kind of turn this into kind of functional geometry in terms of I can go here and pick out, like, let's say a roof, and I want this to be a roof, and then I can pick out, for example, I want this type of a roof, and hopefully it's going to work. Okay, it did. So now it has that
Wow.
thickness. However, this does look impressive and nice, but in real life, when you start adding layers, if you try to connect it with a wall in the sections and all of that, it's probably not going to look how you want it to look. And fixing that up is going to be really, really difficult. So, uh,
Mm.
you can kind of get to that really interesting shape, but if you want to kind of make a project that's fully in 3D with all of the details, it's going to be really, really difficult. I'm not going to say it's impossible because I'm sure somebody would say not. And well, actually, you can do it. I know, but it takes forever. So yeah, it's cool, but I think there is a long way to go. But I think it's natural that we don't really have those tools or not as much development because it's not something that you see all the time. And yeah, I know some of the firms that are working on those crazy designs. They're using like software that's for designing airplane and not buildings, just because they need the precision and all of that. And you're getting into some crazy manufacturing as well. So yeah, doesn't make sense to have that inside of Revit or ArchiCAD at that level.
Yeah, it is fun to play with. I have to admit, like when you just jump in, you can kind of extrude things, and if you want to do custom things. But again, I can see why they might have dedicated as many resources to filling out a tool that, like, honestly, on the day to day, you're going to be drawing walls, windows, doors, and a roof. Like yeah, like for the vast majority of like residential builds. Now, when you're getting into like facade design and stuff like this, you want to have a bit more flexibility. But yeah, it would be cool to see more development, but I understand why it might be lagging a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think especially for students, like I have a huge number of students following my channel, and I think one of the reasons why the channel grew so much in the beginning because it was taking these wild buildings and recreating those in Revit, and it's great for the student level of project, but when you have to do it in real life, you realize, okay, we're missing a lot of tools here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've found a similar thing. The types of projects that students are kind of given, it's kind of crazy compared to what like the vast majority of actual infield like buildings are going to be like in the documentation. Like it feels like a little bit of a departure, just as far as you're going to be drawing like a like something that's extruded in 12 different directions and has like all the it's like like where's it going to drain? Like where's the where's the water
Yeah.
where's the water going to go? Like yeah, like all like yeah, if an engineer had to look at it, all that kind of stuff, it gets tricky. It's very cool to see visualization and like the edges of what architecture can be. Don't get me wrong, it's very cool. But for like practical training and application of how you're going to create value in the real world, and that value then correlates to how much people are going to like pay you, it's because like in like if we're gonna get like really real, like your value like within the architecture space is what are the levels of problems that you can help solve, because people will pay to solve problems. So if you can figure out how to solve the biggest or the most painful problems, then that's going to inherently make you more valuable, and you're going to be a sought after person within the industry. So it's very cool to model cool stuff, but yeah, when it comes down to it, solving the real world problems of that people are trying to get their head around, those are the things that can make the biggest impact on how many dollars, kangaroo bucks, you're going to get in your pocket.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, as we're getting kind of towards the end of this podcast, I think that's a very kind of profound message to send, and I think it's really important, especially in the architecture world. I think I don't know what your experience with school was, but for me, we had a lot of this kind of resentment towards the actual field and the actual work. And I know like I don't know how in most places it's like the developer that's kind of handling the project, or here we just call it the investor or the client, I guess. But there's always this idea that it's like a hostile relationship. Like there's this really bad person that wants to take away all of your creativity to make his dirty money, and it's your job to kind of fight for the good and for the art. And yeah, it's at the end of the day, you want to create something for somebody to live there, and kind of the price is also important. It's not just like how cool the shape of the building can be. Like if it's affordable, that's also good for people. So yeah, it's really important.
100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, and I feel empathy for both sides of the situation. I think it might just be because the unique, semi-unique nature of like how I came into the industry. Like as far as I was very fortunate to start working in a firm before I started my my formal education. So I was seeing a lot of real world like people who are trying to get buildings done. So like as far as these are real people like with their entire life savings, like in the residential like side of things, like when we're doing like in alterations and additions, or we're doing like proposed building, this kind of thing. Now, developers, like of course, they're putting in like the money from their wallet too, and they want to yield on what they're investing into. Like money isn't infinite, and they also had to try and work hard for that money as well. But if we tie back to say like a typical residential, like just a family that's just wants to add another bedroom just onto their house. They just want a space. Don't get me wrong, it's very, very like to use our creativity within those situations. It's yeah, it's exciting to make interesting forms and shapes, but at the end of the day, we need a roof that stops the rain from getting in, and we need a window that can let light and ventilation into the room, and we need that. So it fits within a budget that this family can actually make happen one day. I heard someone say once that 8 out of 9 projects don't they never get built. Like they get drawn, they get taken all the way to like the construction certificate stage, where you've got all these beautiful drawings done up, but like such a large amount don't actually get built. And it really kind of like shocks me when I heard that, because it's like all this effort, all this time, all this energy that's being spent by everyone that's involved in that project. And there's so many people that are involved in a project. There's you, the person who's drawing it. There's the client who has an idea, and you take your profession and you merge those two together. You take the idea and you want to bring it into reality. But if 8 out of 10 of those aren't coming together, just because if we find out that it's too expensive, or if something happens that we could have helped with in the design phases earlier on, then actually making buildings happen, that's where we're going to have the most fundamental change in the real world. Don't get me wrong, I love the aesthetics of architecture. It's beautiful to see the buildings, and it's inspiring when you do walk into those buildings. I've seen churches, I've seen like the massive commercial buildings. Just seeing something like that humanity has been able to use our hands and our mind to form from an idea and actually have built within reality is inspiring. So I don't want to take anything away from that, of course, but to actually learn and to put to use the fundamentals so that actual change can be made with our efforts, that to me is the most fundamental thing to actual real architecture, is actually making things in the real world that have a fundamental change and solve a problem for an actual person. That's where I feel like we have the biggest impact.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's really well said. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Perfect. Yeah, so just kind of as a final question, can you give us some tips for people learning ArchiCAD, and perhaps tie that in with your channel and everything else that you offer to your audience?
100%. Yeah. So if you're starting out, start small. Start with your first wall. That's the biggest thing. If I'm to give a plug to my own channel, it's just that first tutorial. I've got them for a couple of the different versions of ArchiCAD, but if you can just find one of them, it's just how to draw a floor plan inside of ArchiCAD. Within literally the first minute in every tutorial that I've made on it, I've tried to make sure that within the first minute, you can draw your first wall and you'll be able to actually see what that looks like. And to me, that first wall is the start of an incredible journey within architecture, that whether it's just a small floor plan for a little alterations and additions, or it could be a huge commercial building anywhere in the world. If you can just start small, I would encourage you. And just starting is the biggest part. It's the most intimidating part. But once you actually open up the program, whether it's ArchiCAD, whether it's Revit, once you actually open it up and draw that first wall and you just start and you just take it step by step, you can make so much progress. And it's incredible learning that new skill that you can actually channel the thoughts and ideas that you have in your mind and bring them into fruition in the real world. So if I was to give one piece of advice, is start small and take it step by step, and you will be able to do it.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, that's a really good kind of approach to getting started in any architecture software. Now you have your YouTube channel. You also have a Patreon, right? You offer a course there as well.
Yeah, yeah. So there's the different so with every tutorial video that I do, I also have the Patreon, which I upload all the ArchiCAD files to. So if you just want to skip ahead to like the good bit, like as far as you want to get the file and you want to play with it, or if you just want to watch the course completely ad free, with all the tutorial files along the way. There's the Patreon for those who are keen and ready to invest in their architecture journey. And just want like more resources, or they want ad free. So the Patreon, like you don't have to, like as far as if you go through the tutorial and you go step by step, there's so many free resources available on the channel, like as far as how to draw things from floor plans, elevations, sections, all the typical plans that you actually need to make things happen. Those are available to just learn and draw. But if you do want to skip ahead, and if you do want access to more resources, and you're keen to invest in your architecture journey, then yeah, there's more stuff available over on the Patreon, as well as the fundamentals template. The thing that we just jumped into before, there's my template that I use for my professional projects. I can just copy and paste windows, doors, little room layouts. It just saves me so much setup time with every single project. If I can just copy and paste, because we're not being paid to set things up from scratch when we're doing a project. We're being paid to solve a problem. So if we can do that as fast and efficiently and effective as possible, then that's how we can actually make change happen.
Okay, cool. We're going to be linking up that Patreon as well in the cards and in the description of the video. So if you want to check it out, you can find it there. Mark, thank you so much for joining me for this first podcast. It was really a pleasure talking to you. I really like the way that you explain things, and yeah, I would definitely recommend your channel to anyone that's interested in learning about ArchiCAD.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you very much, Milos. Thank you.
And everybody, please tell us in the comments below, have you enjoyed this podcast? If you have any questions, we're going to be taking a look at the comments. And yeah, if you want to see more of these, please let me know. Have a nice day.